When you truly understand your purpose, everything in your life begins to take on a new level of clarity. Purpose acts as a filter. It helps you determine what deserves your attention and what does not. Without a sense of purpose, it is easy to fall into the trap of saying yes to every request, every invitation, and every distraction. But when your life is guided by purpose, you begin to see that not everything is worth your time, and not everyone deserves access to your energy. Purpose brings discipline. It teaches you to say no, not because you're arrogant, but because you're focused. It empowers you to withdraw from noise, from unnecessary conversations, from relationships that dilute your calling, and from environments that drain your potential. People who don't know their purpose often live to please others, constantly making themselves available, hoping to be liked, accepted, or needed. But that kind of availability can become a trap. You were not created to meet everyone's expectations. You were created to fulfill a specific assignment. Purpose helps you align your daily habits, your time, your resources, and your relationships with that assignment. And when you wake up every day knowing what you were born to do, you begin to prioritize differently. You stop chasing people and start chasing growth. You stop engaging in every conflict and start investing in peace. You stop trying to prove yourself to others and start becoming who you were meant to be. Living with purpose doesn't make you selfish. It makes you intentional. It teaches you to value your time, to guard your space, and to be selective about who and what you give yourself to. Not everyone who knocks on the door of your life deserves to come in. Not every opportunity is a blessing. Not every call needs to be returned. When your life is built around purpose, you don't just do more. You do what matters most. Being available is not a bad thing. But being available without discernment is dangerous. When you make yourself accessible to everyone at all times, you unintentionally teach people to take your presence for granted. Constant availability sends a message that your time, your energy, and your presence cost nothing. And anything that appears to have no cost is eventually treated with no value. People begin to assume you will always be there, always say yes, always respond, even when it costs you your peace, your purpose, or your personal growth. The danger is not just in how others treat you, but in how you begin to treat yourself. You lose sight of your own limits, your own needs, and your own worth, because you're constantly pouring into others without taking the time to be refilled. Discernment is what separates healthy servers from unhealthy sacrifice. Without it, you confuse being helpful with being used. Not every request is your responsibility. Not every emergency belongs to you. Not every person who wants your attention deserves your access. Discernment teaches you to distinguish between genuine connections and selfish demands. It helps you see who is drawing from your well because they are thirsty and who is digging holes in your well, leaving you empty. When you lack discernment, people with no regard for your time or calling will consume the space meant for your growth and vision. You are not created to be a public utility available to everyone on demand. You are a vessel with a purpose, and that purpose requires protection. Just as a bank doesn't give out money without verifying identity, you should not give out your time without evaluating intent. Being available to the wrong people can delay your progress, derail your focus, and damage your emotional and spiritual health. Discernment gives you the courage to say no, to step back, and to protect the parts of yourself that are sacred, strategic, and essential to your assignment. Time is one of the most valuable resources you have, and unlike money or material possessions, once it's spent, it can never be recovered. Every second that passes is a piece of your life that you will never get back. Which is why treating your time casually is one of the greatest mistakes you can make. Your time is not something others are entitled to. It is something you choose to give. And that choice must be made with wisdom. And people begin to treat your time like a right. They start making demands instead of requests. They interrupt instead of inquire. They assume instead of appreciate. But the truth is, no one is automatically owed your time. It must be earned, respected, and valued. When you understand the weight of your time, you begin to treat it like currency. You invest it where it grows, not where it gets wasted. You spend it on what matters, not on what merely makes noise. You start calculating the true cost of conversations, commitments, and connections. Just because someone wants your attention doesn't mean you owe it. Just because they call doesn't mean you must answer. Just because something seems urgent doesn't mean it's important. People who fail to understand this often live reactive lives, constantly responding to others, constantly adjusting to demands, constantly drained. But when you realize your time is a resource, you begin to manage it like a steward, not like a servant. Your calendar reflects your convictions. If your schedule is full of obligations that don't align with your values or your vision, then you're not in control. Your time is. Protecting your time doesn't make you selfish. It makes you strategic. You begin to guard your mornings, defend your peace, and limit your interactions to what builds rather than burdens. You begin to recognize that every hour you spend out of obligation is an hour you could have used to develop, to rest, to build, to grow, or to hear clearly. Time must be budgeted, not begged for. When people know you understand the worth of your time, they either rise to honor it or step back in frustration, but either way, you stay free. Living for approval is a silent prison that many never realize they're trapped in. It starts with a small compromise, saying yes when you should say no, showing up when you're exhausted, staying quiet when you should speak. And all of it is done in the name of keeping people happy, accepted, or impressed. But if you're not careful, seeking approval becomes a way of life. And before long, you're building a life that pleases others, but betrays your purpose. You were not created to live at the mercy of other people's opinions. You were created for a specific assignment, something only you can do, something that was placed inside you before anyone else had an opinion about who you should be. You know, your assignment is not up for public vote. It is not a group project. It is not shaped by applause or validated by likes. In fact, the more serious you become about fulfilling your assignment, the more rejection you will face. The more focused you are, the more misunderstood you'll be. Approval may bring comfort, but it will never bring clarity. And clarity is what you need when you're walking in purpose. I think the danger of seeking approval is that it forces you to fit into spaces you were never designed for and to please people who have no idea what you were called to do. There comes a point when you have to choose between being liked and being obedient to your calling. That decision often requires disappointment. Disappointing others so that you don't disappoint your creator, your calling, or your future. Some people won't understand your boundaries. Some won't like your silence. Some will question your decisions. But your life must be led by conviction, not consensus. You are not assigned to be liked by everyone. You are assigned to be effective in your purpose. And effectiveness requires focus, and focus demands that you stop bending for applause and start standing in your assignment. When you are consumed with doing what you are born to do, the need for validation begins to fade. You no longer chase approval because you've found something greater, alignment. Vision is fragile. It begins as a whisper in your spirit, a glimpse of what could be, and like a seed, it needs protection before it can take root and grow. Without boundaries, your vision becomes exposed to distractions, demands, and influences that can distort or destroy. Boundaries are not about keeping people out. They're about keeping your focus in. They are the invisible lines that separate what is essential from what is optional, what is purposeful from what is peripheral. When you have a clear vision for your life, you begin to recognize that not every opportunity is for you. Not every conversation needs your voice. And not every relationship deserves your access. The clearer your vision, the tighter your boundaries must become. Without them, your time gets hijacked, your peace gets disturbed, and your energy gets drained. People constantly pull at you. Some with good intentions, others with hidden agendas. But both can be equally dangerous if you lack the discernment to say no. Vision demands protection because it carries the weight of potential. It's not just about what you see, it's about what you're building. And anything being built must be guarded, not casually exposed to every opinion, distraction, or interruption. Boundaries teach others how to treat your time, your focus, and your mission. They help you avoid burnout by creating space for rest, reflection, and intentional action. Without boundaries, your calendar fills up with everyone else's priorities while your vision gets pushed to the background. You start reacting instead of creating, surviving instead of leading. But when you honor your boundaries, you give your vision the environment it needs to flourish. You start operating from a place of strength, not stress. You stop explaining your decisions and start executing them. The people who truly support your growth will respect your boundaries. Those who don't were never meant to be part of the journey anyway. Boundaries are not a wall, they are a filter. They don't isolate you, they insulate your purpose from anything that threatens to dilute or derail it. Impact is not birthed in crowds, it's often forged in the quiet, hidden places where no one is watching. There are seasons when you must step away, not because you're abandoning people, but because you're answering something greater. True impact requires a depth that cannot be developed while constantly being accessible, distracted, or surrounded. Isolation, when intentional, is not a sign of weakness or arrogance. It is a sign of preparation. There are insights, ideas, and inner transformations that only come when you're willing to separate from the noise and sit with yourself, your purpose, and your creator. Greatness demands a level of solitude. The most powerful ideas, the deepest clarity, and the most profound revelations often come in stillness. When you're always in motion, always responding, always showing up for others, you leave no room to receive what's meant for your own growth. Isolation is where vision is refined. It's where confidence is built, not on applause, but on identity. It's where your motives are purified, your direction sharpened, and your character strengthened. Without it, you risk building a life that looks successful on the outside, but is empty and scattered on the inside. Then you avoid isolation because it feels uncomfortable. It forces you to confront yourself, to let go of people-pleasing, and to trust that what's developing in private will eventually make sense in public. But the truth is, the deeper the impact you're called to make, the more separation you will require. Not everyone can go where you're going. Not everything can fit into the next chapter of your life. Isolation allows you to release, what no longer aligns and make space for what's coming. You stop moving for movement's sake and begin moving with purpose, precision, and power. There's a reason why the most influential voices, leaders, and visionaries often have moments of disappearance before they emerge with clarity and conviction. It's not a retreat, it's a reset. So as we reflect on everything shared, let this truth settle in your spirit. You were not created to be available to everyone. Purpose requires clarity, boundaries, discernment, and intentional solitude. Constant accessibility dilutes your power, scatters your focus, and puts your calling at risk. You cannot change the world if you're constantly being pulled in every direction by the world. Yes, time to stop apologizing for protecting your peace. Stop feeling guilty for saying no. Stop sacrificing your assignment for approval. The people who truly value your presence will also honor your limits. Your time, energy, and attention are sacred. Treat them like the treasures they are. Not everyone deserves access to your life because not everyone is assigned to your destiny. Choose purpose over popularity. Choose focus over noise. Choose your assignment over their expectations. And when you do, your impact won't just be felt, it will be remembered.